Alright, bom dia everybody, we've had the sprint qualifying for the Brazilian Grand Prix, so let's have a look at how the first competitive session of this weekend's action around the Sao Paulo Grand Prix went. Let's go through the big 5 highlights, the 5 things that we learned from today's sprint qualifying session. The first thing that we learned is that the medium tyres were the order of the day, at least in SQ1 and SQ2. It's not unheard of for this to happen, particularly when the soft tyres run out so quickly. Something that we expect to be the case around Sao Paulo. They did make an appearance though in SQ3. Drivers going for ultimate pace rather than a bit of durability. One of the benefits, of course, of the medium tyres is that they would definitely last the entire lap, and indeed they will be able to last for 2 runs, albeit with a cool-down lap or 2 in between. Because of the shorter sessions as well in sprint qualifying, that also meant that the cars didn't have to go into the garage as much to change tyres, and overall it would save them a bit of time in doing so when they need to do multiple runs. Something that some drivers got caught out with, especially of course Sir Lewis Hamilton. Oh man, this was not a great day for Ferrari overall. Hamilton didn't have enough time to be able to do a second run in sprint qualifying too, and as a result he qualified in P11. He didn't make it through to the top 10 shootout. Charles Leclerc, his teammate, did fare a little bit better. He managed to get through into SQ3, but he only qualified in P8, and he also spun in SQ2 as well, which really does speak to the car being rather unstable. Ferrari not on top of that car at all so far this weekend. It's going to be a really tough one in the sprint tomorrow. They'll hope that they'll be able to correct that and make it better for qualifying on Saturday and the Grand Prix on Sunday, but we'll see how that all goes, of course. A team that did surprisingly well though was Aston Martin. Both of their cars into SQ3, Fernando Alonso in P5 and Lance Stroll in P7. Really solid from the pair of them. Alonso just 1/1000th of a second off of George Russell in P4 as well. I think Alonso as well was the fastest car in SQ2, at least he was in the opening stages of that. So there's some serious pace in that Aston Martin, and if they finish where they start tomorrow, then they're going to get some decent points in the sprint and some very good points if they can replicate for the Grand Prix on Sunday as well. But how did the title protagonists get on? Well, Max Verstappen did not have a good day overall. He was looking relatively quick throughout sprint qualifying, but he was only able to do 1 run in SQ3, and that run was not a particularly good one. He ended up being the filling inside that Aston Martin sandwich in P6, which is not really where you're expecting to be. Over 3 tenths off of the pole sitter today. Not great. He was shaking his head as he went across the line. He knew it was not a good lap. I don't know if he just made a mistake or there was just a general lack of pace in the car. Obviously Yuki Tsunoda, his teammate, I think he qualified like P18, P19. He was definitely out in SQ1 anyway, so did better than Yuki, but that's not really saying too much. Red Bull so far this weekend looking a bit shaky. But while it was a tough one for Red Bull, McLaren are very much back on form. P1 and P3, they are very much back, and particularly Lando Norris was very impressive, setting an incredible sprint pole time. The first time he's ever claimed a sprint pole position in his Formula 1 career. He was almost 1/10 ahead of Kimi Antonelli. The Mercedes car's looking very quick around here, it must be said. 1/4 of a second faster than George Russell, who was P4, but Kimi Antonelli, what a lap from him. He didn't improve in his second run, unfortunately for him, but he was looking really quick. If he kept it together through the second and third sectors, he may well have got sprint pole. Not for the first time in his career, of course. He managed it at Miami earlier on in the season. Oscar Piastri, I'd say back on form. I mean, obviously not where he wanted to be. He wants to be on the front row of the grid, but he's got a relatively inexperienced driver ahead of him in Kimi Antonelli. He's on the clean side of the grid as well, so I think it could well be a McLaren 1-2 at the end of the first lap. And while he may not beat Lando Norris tomorrow, the fact that he should be much closer to him is a good thing. But let's hope they don't get quite as close as what they did for the USGP sprint a few weeks ago. So yeah, McLaren looking imperious, Mercedes looking impressive, so too Aston Martin. 6 of the top 7 all powered by Mercedes engines. That is not a coincidence either. They seem to really like this track. But of course, it's meant to rain for the sprint race tomorrow, and that means that Mr. Max Verstappen can very much still be a big threat, even from P6. We saw what he did 12 months ago in the Grand Prix. P6 for him would be no problem to win that race if it is really wet, I think. But we'll see what happens, guys. Those are my thoughts on sprint qualifying today on Friday evening. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Who was your standout performer today? It's got to be Kimi Antonelli for me, but shout out to Nico Hülkenberg for making the top 10 in that Sauber. No mean feat at all. See you soon, guys. Have a fantastic weekend. Let's hope for a great Brazilian Grand Prix as well.